Good day, everyone. Meteorologist Mark Muller here. Glad to have you here for me for this edition of MeteoMark's Weather. We're looking at the potential for a big severe weather potential outbreak here for parts of the Midwest, Ohio Valley, and eventually it further eastward here from the Appalachians eastward to the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. We're going to get into details later Tuesday, Wednesday, and early Thursday. As late Tuesday and Tuesday night, the severe weather could really get cranking here across parts of the Midwest, Ohio Valley, and lower Great Lakes, and this will be expanding eastward rapidly throughout the day on Wednesday as we continue with this system pushing eastward. And as winter seems non-existent across the east, we could actually see major wraparound snow on the backside of the system. We'll see which areas could see the most snowfall accumulation. And to top it all off, there looks to be a troubling component with this system. Widespread wind gusts of 35 to 50 miles per hour could be on their way for later Tuesday, Tuesday night, Wednesday, all the way through Thursday morning from the Ohio Valley to parts of the Northeast. Let's get into it. All right, so our severe weather looking like here's what's going to be the start of it here as we get into Monday. Nothing severe here, but we could be looking at, some generalized thunderstorms developing around parts of the Ohio Valley and the Midwest here. Now, as we get into later Tuesday, this is where things really start to become much more real here for severe weather. Around the Chicago area, Springfield, St. Louis, and up to Indianapolis and Fort Wayne, parts of southwestern Michigan as well. This is going to be the trouble area, especially later Tuesday afternoon, evening, and into the overnight into early Wednesday morning. This is going to be racing eastward as we head into Wednesday morning, but this is definitely the area where the severe weather is really going to start to ramp up. All right, so starting off with the GFS here, and we'll transition towards the other models as well. In the short term, it's looking like just some spotty precipitation, mainly in the form of snow showers northeast here. But the big story is going to be that severe weather taking shape across the central part of the country and moving northeast. So you just back this up here. You can see the timing on this. This is 4 p.m. on the 27th. You can see convection really starts to take shape overnight on Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. You can see lots of convection will be firing in this area, this region. The GFS is backed off just slightly here, but you can see it really explodes it by 10 a.m. on Wednesday morning, the 28th. And look at this. This could be a pretty big squall line. Let's just back this up here, get some timestamps on this. So moving through the Cleveland area about 1 p.m., there will be some maybe mixed snow on the backside of this through Buffalo and Pittsburgh by 4 p.m. on Wednesday. So look at this. Yeah, this is going to be racing towards the east. The I-81 corridor on eastward, 7 p.m. Going to be a very stormy time of it. Lots of wind with this. That's my concern. Moving to coastal areas, I-95 region, about 10 p.m. on Wednesday night. And that racing offshore towards Nova Scotia, it does move through New Brunswick as well. Could be a lot of wind. This is a very fast mover. You can see high pressure building in behind it here. And then our next system, maybe another round of severe thunderstorms a bit further to the south as we continue in time here. And I did want to get into the southern and northern component of this line as well. I don't want to leave you out here across the Mississippi and Tennessee River Valley. I still think you could see some strong to severe thunderstorms as well, damaging wind, large hail, isolated tornado possibility. Also up here into parts of Canada, southern Ontario, we could see some convection going on here. And as we continue through, wow, this is a fast mover. Watch this. So eastern Kentucky, eastern Tennessee, this is by the 28th at 1 p.m. So this is Wednesday at 1 p.m. Look at this, just west of Knoxville. Moving through central and eastern Tennessee, eastern Kentucky, West Virginia, eastern Ohio, western Pennsylvania, and we could actually have some convection as far north as eastern Ontario and Quebec as well. So any daytime heating will bring on that convection. Now look at that line. Oh, wow. Yeah, see, this is what I'm talking about here. We could have, this thing is going to be racing. So the wind field, the wind maxes are going to be pretty strong with this, pretty intense. Damaging wind in excess of 60 miles per hour. Widespread gusts from 45 to 50 are likely, though. Look at this. As we head towards 4 p.m., look how fast moving into western North Carolina. Even some stray, stronger storms, I think, in Georgia. Look at this throughout West Virginia, western New York, and Pennsylvania. Southern Ontario and Quebec still, dealing with this. This is your time frame. Definitely a storm with a lot of dynamics. Look how fast this is moving. It's crazy that I have to try to slow this down ever so slightly. Moving through the Washington, D.C. area, Richmond, towards 7 p.m., Greensboro, Charlotte, just west of Columbia, and then continuing southward here into parts of the Gulf Coast states. So yeah, most of the energy by this point, mid-Atlantic, northeast, and southeast Canada. Wow. Look at this. This thing's going to be racing. So the wind field is going to be intense. And there it is into parts of New Brunswick, Nova Scotia. Look at this. This is towards 4 a.m. on Thursday morning. So here's our Cape layer as we head throughout Tuesday. You can see here it is across Texas. However, there's just not going to be, sufficient moisture and such. Further north, though, as we head throughout Tuesday here, this is where things start to get interesting. Let's just back this up. This is right around early to mid-afternoon. You can see this region here getting upwards closer to just over 1,000 joules per kilogram here. That looks pretty conducive for some severe weather as we continue through early Wednesday morning. You can see that moves east. We still hold on to somewhere between 500 and 750 joules per kilogram here. That moving into the Ohio Valley into parts of the Northeast. So that could keep that squall line moving. You can see Cape even values just below 500 here across coastal sections of the Northeast Wednesday evening. And I wanted to show you the shear in the atmosphere. This is really indicative of, varying of winds with height. This is what can give you some of those really strong winds and sometimes some isolated tornadoes as well. You can see as we get later on, let's just back this up. So this is Tuesday night. So as we approach the Chicago area and then eastward towards Indianapolis as we head early Wednesday morning, middle part of the morning, eastward. So just on the eastern end of this is where we could see some extreme amount of wind shear in the upper atmosphere, and any of that's mixed, we get that veering of the winds with height. We can really get some strong winds, and that just translates, eastward as we head throughout, the early Thursday morning areas across eastern New England. And here on the GFS, I wanted to show you the Supercell area, the Supercell composite, Wednesday, late Tuesday into Wednesday, so this is Tuesday night. Supercell potential is pretty high here, approaching that in excess of 2-3 here on the scale. It's not too terribly high, but you see that moves towards Ohio as we get into early Wednesday morning, and then it becomes much more linear as we head throughout the day on Wednesday. So if we want to take a look at the wind speeds we're looking with this next system, this is also going to be a big deal outside just the main squall line. You can see there's a lot of wind field with this system heading on into, Tuesday night and Wednesday. So, as we continue towards Wednesday evening here, look what's happening. Now, this is not, extreme compared to past storms we've seen earlier this year. However, some of these wind gusts could be approaching upwards of 45, 50 miles per hour here. And then, of course, in the squall line, it could be even more intense. So some of these areas in the red zones, we could be approaching those areas where we could be upwards of 50 to 55 mile per hour gusts here as we head throughout later Wednesday into Thursday across parts of the Northeast there. You can see, especially the higher elevations, that's where we could continue those stronger wind gusts, and then it kind of slackens off as we head towards Friday. So getting to the wintry side here, as we continue throughout the rest of your Sunday night and Monday, there'll be some spotty snow showers here into parts of the Northeast. Not too much to write home about, though. But here it is. Here's the energy. We have a couple pieces of energy. One here in the Ohio Valley, we start to get some showers breaking out. This is by 4 a.m. on the 27th, so this is right around Tuesday morning. You can see our energy out here in Colorado and already snow breaking out across the northern plains here and western plains. That is going to continue to blossom. Watch this. Rainfall starts to really pick up here around Cleveland and over towards Indianapolis. You can see the energy coming together here in the plains, and would not be surprised, if we get some, thunderstorms further south. But here we go. We're talking about the cold sector of this system. In this little segment of the video here, you can see snow on the backside of this system. And yes, I will be getting in on the Canadian side. I have a separate segment for you Canadians here later on in the video, so please stay tuned for that, or if you want to jump ahead on the timestamp down below, you can do that as well. Look at here, Cleveland at 10 a.m. Showing up as a line of convection, and look at that. There it is, 1 p.m. It looks like the front will be coming through you. maybe ending as a period of wet snowflakes mixing in. Look how fast this is racing. I have to slow this down just a little bit. Moving through the Buffalo area around 4 p.m. just west of Pittsburgh, and look at how it races towards the I-81 corridor. This is towards 7 p.m., maybe ending as a brief period of snow showers. Not too much accumulation. I'll get into that as well. But you can see it racing towards the New England coastline here as we get throughout the overnight here. This is 1 a.m. on the 29th, so this is getting into very early Thursday morning. You can see mixing with snow on the backside. We might have a little flare-up of some lake enhancement here southeast of Lake Erie and Lake Ontario, but it's not going to amount to too much, maybe a slushy inch in some areas. And then as we continue to go through time here, you can see our next system late week towards March 1st. Friday, we could see some stronger thunderstorms here across the southeast and maybe some mixed precipitation and wet snowflakes on the northern fringe of this. I'm not looking at a massive layer of cold air, though, so that's not looking that great. And it will become some sort of coastal, but it looks like at this point it'll probably head out to sea. Temperatures are marginal for any type of snowfall. Storminess continues out west here. We're just going to continue to rocket those storms into the Pacific Northwest and California as well. There is that low pressure system moving off the coast further out to sea. It just seems like that, it actually weakens, but then it actually starts to come back towards the northwest on this model run. That is really interesting. Our next system actually pushing across the plains here is another Colorado low, so pretty much a broken record scenario of we've seen this week. Maybe some severe weather again for Chicago down to Memphis here and Jackson. So something to keep a really close eye on. We're in the severe weather season. It looks like our coastal hanging out here will combine forces with this next system as we head towards March 5th and 6th. We could be looking at another potential high wind event here across the Ohio Valley into the northeast with this next system. And look at this, as we continue in time, high pressure does build in behind it. We continue to watch these systems. We may see a little bit of a cold spell breaking out here across the northeast and southeast Canada as we head towards March 10th through 11th and maybe the 12th here, but it just doesn't look like winter is coming back. All right, so let's take a look at the European model here. We'll see how this lines up with the storm track of the GFS. Now, you can see rainfall a little bit breaking out here across parts of the Ohio Valley as we head through Tuesday here. Monday and Tuesday, you can see that start to break out here. There is that low pressure system. It's looking pretty well on target here with the GFS moving up through Chicago and west to Detroit. So that warm sector will be looking at that severe weather potential as we head later on Tuesday night into Wednesday here. And that moves towards the northeast. You see the low moving a little bit south and east here into parts of western Quebec. That's going to drag that cold front here. We'll go over those severe weather parameters just momentarily here. They look pretty good for a damaging wind outbreak here. Further westward, I am concerned about some tornado potential as well. We'll get into that momentarily. But there's that squall line, 10 p.m. Looks like the European model's a little bit slower here than the GFS. So I-81 corridor on eastward, that's where we'll see the squall line. So somewhere between 7 and 10 p.m. here. If we just back this up just a little bit, you can see it does move through Cleveland between 1 and 4 p.m., Buffalo around 4 p.m. And look at this, as we head towards the northeast corridor, European model starts to slow this down just slightly. You can see the bend in the isobars indicating where the cold front will likely be. 1 a.m. moving through New York City, just east of Albany and Burlington, Vermont by this time. Also Quebec City. Now look at this as we move towards the coast, 4 a.m. on early Thursday morning. You can see that cold front moving through Nova Scotia and New Brunswick here. Look at this. To the east, we have that high retreating, and look at that storm races towards the east. European model taking this low coastal low, kind of hanging it further south and east than the GFS, but look at behind it. Towards March 5th, we could be looking at a major severe weather outbreak from parts of the Midwest southward here. So this is something we definitely need to keep an eye on. Liquid equivalent precipitation here across North America. Yeah, the West Coast getting hit hard, particularly the Pacific Northwest, but as we head through midweek, there's the Ohio River Valley. You can see this is going to be mainly skipping the Gulf Coast here, kind of dry throughout the week. But look at here, the Ohio River Valley. Wouldn't be surprised if you pick up 1 to 2 inches of rainfall, especially in some of those heavier showers and thunderstorms, and then generalized 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch across much of the Northeast into parts of Southeast Canada. And how's snowfall looking like here? Well, there it is across the east. Most of it's bottled up across the U.S. Rockies and much of Canada. Look at that swath of snow up here in Canada. You have to go well north of the border, except right along, the Ontario border here. You're picking up some pretty significant snowfall here, 6-inch plus. But look at much of Southeast Canada here. You're not looking like Toronto. These areas towards Montreal, just not looking like a good chance of any snow. As we continue, we may see some snow. There it is on the back side of that system. But you can see we're not looking at anything more than an inch or two here across parts of the Ohio Valley into parts of upstate New York and northern New England on the backside of that system. The plains continue to get hit through March 5th here. Look at, we're just going to eject these low pressure systems off to the northeast here. All right, across the Ohio Valley and Northeast, there is rainfall amounts through Tuesday morning, not much, but later Tuesday, we start to pick it up there across the Ohio Valley, Tuesday night into Wednesday. That squall line moving through across parts of Pennsylvania. We could be looking at most areas 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch, and look at here on the southern portion, this area closer to an inch or two likely. And here we go as we get into the GFS. There is the snowfall totals on the northern side of the system. You can see there's some pretty significant totals up here in the parts of the Midwest, particularly the eastern Dakotas and northern Minnesota. Just to name a few here, upwards of 6 to 12 inches potentially. You can see there's generally, even in the Appalachians here, there's generally 1 to 3 inches behind this system, mainly in the higher elevations here in northern New York. But, we might have some lake enhancement behind this. Let's take a look. So where the lion's share of the snowfall will be falling, there it is, eastern North Dakota and northern Minnesota. At this point, looking like you will see the most snowfall out of this. Would not rule out some more snowfall here across parts of Nebraska, southeastern part of Minnesota, and Iowa. So this is going to be a complex system. We'll take a look and see how this is going to play out, because somebody's going to see some heavy wraparound snow here. And then as we get into the Ohio Valley, the northeast here, behind that system, as the rain changes to snow, we also get some lake enhancement. Would not be surprised if these areas pick up about 1 to 2 inches, maybe locally higher amounts, 3 to 4. Also, the Tug Hill, Adirondacks of northern New York, also northern New England, we could see some wraparound snow, especially these higher elevations, closer maybe towards 4 or 5 inches of snow. All right, so as we get into our upper air pattern here, our heights, you can see that ridge continuing across the east. That's going to be indicative of those above average temperatures. There's that trough kicking into the west coast here. Tell you, it's just not looking good for winter here across the east. It definitely spring seems like it's sprung. Now, around Thursday here, behind it, you get into this trough, so maybe ending this storm of many areas with some wet snowflakes. But look how quickly this is going to be a massive inferno ridge to welcome us into March. So March is definitely not coming in very much like a lion here. Look at here across parts of the west, that trough really kicking into the west coast and the desert southwest. Four Corners region. And here it is on the CFS as we continue through the month of March. You can see the west continues with troughiness. Now, don't get me wrong. We're going to have periods right around March 10th and 11th where we could see some storminess here in the east. Could this actually bring us a late season winter storm? It's possible, but it's not really looking likely. Now, as we get towards the 13th, 14th, and 15th, this feature does look interesting, but as we've seen time and time again this winter, it just doesn't seem like the storm and moisture is lining up with the cold air, and the cold air is pretty marginal as we head through mid-March here. Look how quickly that retreats, and we start to see a ridge developing back eastward again. And right around just after the first day of spring here, we get a pretty robust pattern here. You can see a very zonal pattern setting up across the North American continent. All right, so your Canadian weather outlook here. It is going to be really active, obviously, here across Western Canada with those systems plowing into Western North America. Now, as we continue to go in time here, we're going to see some, snow showers across parts of Ontario and Quebec here. Obviously, with the bigger storm coming from the United States, this is going to push snowfall all the way up into northern Ontario and Quebec, as you can see. But rainfall across Nova Scotia, much of southern Ontario and Quebec, you can see as that warm air push. We might actually see some stronger convective type elements, stronger thunderstorms here into southern Ontario and western Quebec here. It's quite a possibility. So that's something we're going to have to keep an eye on here as the system pulls to the north. We'll have some rain changing to snow on the backside of it towards Thursday here into New Brunswick and eventually Nova Scotia and Newfoundland here. Now look at here, high pressure builds in across much of northern and central eastern Canada here. We do have an area of snowfall that will be pinwheeling again with another system on the northern side here from the plains of central Canada eastward towards Ontario and Quebec. And you can see that gets organized. We also have rainfall pushing well up into parts of Ontario and Quebec towards March 4th and 5th as another Colorado low ejects. Now look at out here on the west coast of Canada. We're going to continue to see that snowfall pummel inland here, just along and inland of the coastline here with that very unsettled pattern. And northern Ontario will be the jackpot here into northern Quebec for snowfall. Look at that. New Brunswick and Nova Scotia will be another rain event as we continue to kick further into March here. And then it gets kind of quiet except for the west coast of Canada. So as we take a look at the latest European run, of course, the western provinces of Canada continue to pick up that heavy snow, especially just inland along the coast there. You can see here across northern Ontario and Quebec, we're going to start to pick up some heavy snow here mid to late week. That could be in excess of 20 to 30 centimeters or greater here. But you start to see the void of snowfall around New Brunswick and Nova Scotia. You're going to start to see a lot of surge of cold air. I should say warm air from the United States here. So the cold air is going to be bottled way up here into Canada, and the warm air is going to be pushing southwest here from the United States, keeping a raging inferno, quite feeling like a furnace. Spring has sprung. But here across central Canada, look at, you're really starting to pick up some of these storms that are coming up from the United States. All right, so for my tropical viewers here across the Caribbean and much of the islands in Central America, Bahamas, let's take a look. We're dealing with a stalled out frontal boundary through much of the week here. This is going to focus most of the shower and thunder shower activity across much of the central, western, and northeastern Caribbean here. That's going to continue through the midweek here. You can see showers continuing eastern Nicaragua all the way down to Honduras here. Much of eastern Jamaica, particularly all the way through Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, northern Lesser Antilles. It is going to weaken throughout the week, so that is great news. The next frontal boundary come March 1st starts to make its presence felt as most of the Caribbean dries out. You can see northern Bahamas, we could be looking at some additional showers and thunderstorms firing up in this region. The Bahamas really going to be the lion's share of the shower and thunderstorm activity as we head through the first week of March. Now look at this. We start to see a surge of tropical moisture here across the eastern Caribbean come March 5th. That's a pretty interesting feature. We'll keep an eye on it here as we get a surge. I do expect we may have an early hurricane season on our hands. And you want to take a look at rainfall here across Jamaica, parts of Central America, eastern Nicaragua, Honduras, and Belize. You're picking upwards. The stalled out frontal boundary here looks like through midweek you're picking up anywhere from 13 to 26 millimeters, about a half an inch on average here. That stalled out frontal boundary will continue throughout much of the week, just adding a few showers here from time to time. Northern Bahamas next weekend looks to pick up close to 60 to 70 millimeters, looking upwards of an inch and a half, close to 2 inches. And as we get into the eastern Caribbean, we are dealing with that stalled out frontal boundary towards Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, northern Lesser Antilles, Virgin Islands. I think you'll see upwards of 45, 50, 60, some areas 70 millimeters, about an inch to 2 inches likely in these regions. I got plenty more weather for you in just a moment, but take a look at my affiliate. Do you want some awesome maps? Check this out. I am proud to announce that I am now an affiliate with Trilogy Maps. TrilogyMaps.com, bringing you the most digital, customizable maps found nowhere else on the internet. These maps are simply stunning. It's an advanced layering system that makes these maps great for making forecast maps with ease or any other maps that you would like to display important information on. The resolution on these maps is simply amazing. From the detail of everything here in the States, and you can also create stunning, digital, professional layered maps from also across the entire world. And don't forget, in checkout, the discount code option, use my code, MeteoMark, hit apply, and you will get 20% off your order. So if you want the most professional, customizable, and affordable weather maps found nowhere else on the internet, look no further than trilogymaps.com. Link in the description down below along with your discount code. So for our temperatures here across the area, look at this. Yeah, 90s in central Texas here on Monday. Look at this warmth just expanding north here into the northern plains, the Ohio Valley, even getting into the 50s and 60s here. But look at this. As we continue throughout the week, the big story is going to be the big temperature difference here. We do have an Arctic plunge heading south here. You know that's probably where the wintry weather is going to be. While warm air is streaming out ahead of it, you know this is where we get the severe weather outbreaks that do occur. And as we head throughout say the rest of the week here into Wednesday, look what's happening. You see some moderation in temperatures as that cold front blasts through, even a shot of colder air here Wednesday into the northeast. Into Thursday, a warming trend starts once again, soaring into the 40s and 50s here, the Ohio River Valley, all the way up into the northeast. And as we head throughout Friday here, yeah, it looks like continued warmth. Look at this. This looks like spring has sprung in the east. Extended outlook from our hometown viewers, Binghamton to Scranton, Upper Susquehanna, River Valley of New York and Pennsylvania. Look at this, Monday through Friday. This does not look like wintertime at all. In fact, most of the days will be well above average. Look at that. Monday heading into Tuesday and Wednesday, we have that frontal boundary moving in. Rain and wind will be likely. Look at the crash in temperatures, though, back towards normal on Thursday. But that's brief as a warming trend continues for Friday. As always, I want to thank you for joining me for this edition of MeteoMark's Weather. Join me on Facebook at MeteoMark, also at Weather Northeastern, also at Hurricane Northeastern, and also at Susquehanna Weather. Also Twitter at Weather Eastern, and you can visit me at MeteoMark.com. Thank you for joining me. Don't forget to check out my winter weather outlook for 2023-24, and link in the description down below, as well as my affiliate, Trilogy Maps.